Welcome to 23 Degrees Sideways. I want to talk about health. We're still, as I record this, we're still dealing with the SARS-CoV-2 virus. Coronavirus is what they call it. COVID-19 is what people call it. COVID-19 is the disease. The virus is, SARS-CoV-2. It's interesting because I had a friend. I had a friend who was telling me when I started doing research on what was actually working, why certain populations don't seem to be getting sick, or seem to be recovering, or not reporting. You find a lot of populations where people are complaining, like, you didn't get tested, you got sick, you got coronavirus, you didn't report it, you're a horrible, awful, evil person, but you didn't have to go to the hospital, you didn't die. That's why you have untraced cases, is because people are healthy and don't get to the hospital and don't die. Well, and people are very illogical. They talk about the spread versus the death and lagging indicators, and there's a lot of people are trying to manufacture their fear, or identify their fear, take all of their fears and put them into something, and it causes things to go a little weird, more than a little weird sometimes. So I had a friend, and when I started pointing out, like, as the studies started coming out about vitamin D and how the effects of vitamin D are, and the differences in populations that are sedentary versus active. And I mean active more than 30 minutes, 3 times a week. I mean active, right? Okay, so sedentary doesn't mean that you never go to the gym. Okay, you can lead a very sedentary lifestyle and go work out for an hour, 45 minutes, 3 days a week, and still be sedentary, because that's all the movement you do, right? There's intense exercise, and then there's movement. Sometimes when I talk about diet and exercise, I'm using the words. People say diet and exercise, and it's a thing, like it's a mental image. It's a Lego. It's an object. And I shouldn't be using the terms diet and exercise because of the object level definition. So maybe I need to get out of that habit. But when I talk about exercise, what I really mean is human movement. Humans have 5 or 7 basic movements that they do. Gait, walking is one of those 5 or 7 basic movements. Push, pull, hinge, squat. These are the walk. These are basic movements. There's a twist in there also. It depends on which theory you subscribe to. 5 or 7 basic human movements. Look it up. It will give you a much better key to your health, because you can always find a way to do those things, whether it's with a kettlebell or a jungle gym or a rock on the path that you're walking on. Whatever. It's the basic movements. If you move, you are not sedentary. 3 hours a week does not cure sedentarism. Okay, so you have populations that are non-sedentary, that are active, that move around a lot. That one of the things that goes with that is a lot of exposure to the outdoors. So you have unfiltered air, which means that it has low mold spore contamination, low bacterial contamination. Filtered air is not good. HEPA filters aren't really reliable, like in large spaces. Indoor sedentarism just doesn't. You don't get clean air. You get stuff in your carpet. You get stuff in the cubicle walls. You get stuff in the ceiling. You get stuff in the HVAC or air conditioning filters or heater filters. Like, it's not good. All right. So being outdoors, there is the sunlight exposure. And sunlight exposure, of course, is how you manufacture your hormone, vitamin D. And the vitamin D hormone is best when it's manufactured, not something that you get from somewhere else. Like, you can get testosterone from a horse, but it's not the same as your body making, and your body will stop making your own testosterone, and your whole system will get out of whack and imbalanced because of that, because your hormones are all made as a system, and so on. So you have to source your hormone vitamin D internally, and that requires sunlight exposure, right? But I talk about this. I talk about the populations getting less infection, less infectious, less sick. And, I look at some of the studies that people are doing with sufficient vitamin D sufficiency is what they call it in the studies, and these actual trials where they're like, yeah, you're 13 times more likely to go to an ICU if your vitamin D is not sufficient. So my friend responds with, well, of course, being healthy and having exercise and taking your multivitamin always just makes things a little bit better. But that doesn't mean coronavirus isn't really bad. I'm like, no, actually it does. Like, I'm not talking about. He refuses to interpret this as anything other than a statement of general health. Generally healthy people do better. That's the only thing he can get in there, is that general health is helpful, but the virus is bad. No. A specific type of general health kicks its butt. Like, nearly immunity levels of difference. Huge. And people don't seem to be able to process that. I don't know if it's because it's not an intervention or if it's because it's not something you can buy. Now, this is something that's actually a really big deal also. I have some friends who are younger, and there has been a set of social changes that has occurred over my lifetime. And I'm in the beginnings of the consumer stage. I was raised with the TV show cereal ad, toy in the box, you always want something more, shopping therapy. I was raised with that, I wasn't raised with it to the degree, like, I can see the differences. I'm not immune to it, but I rebel against it. I recognize it, and I have active rebellion. But I also see that there are differences. There are a lot of people who were born in, say, the 90s, for whom this is just an overwhelming set of training. There is no make it yourself. There is no do it yourself. There is no, like, DIY, that whole concept, DIY, do it yourself, that's just a consumerist trick to buy more stuff to put together like Legos. It's not literally take a knife out in the woods and create something absolutely from scratch. There's always something to buy, something you need to buy. It's one of the main reasons that my 3 rules, do stuff, don't stop, finish something every day, that second part, the don't stop, has such a big, huge thing about don't stop because you can't buy or don't have a particular tool or feature or something. Because that's literally what people have been raised and brought up to do, is to need a tool or a feature or something to buy. So when it comes to coronavirus, the idea that you just literally eat a little better, go outside, stay outside, be outside, lots of outside, walk around, outside, walking around, outside, that actually, it's not something you can buy. It's not something you can swallow as a pill, in a pill form. It's not consumerist. I honestly think that if the medical community and the media got together and said the way to beat coronavirus is for everyone to buy membership to an outdoor rooftop track and have a trainer walk you around the track for 2 miles every day, people would go for it because it was literally something you had to buy. Like there's a mental switch in there. It's really bizarre and really weird, but guarantee it would be more effective than trying to tell people get outside or walk around, get some vitamin D. Like you really need this work on your tan, dude. So, but there are a lot of people who seem to be very attached to the idea that the virus, the pandemic, has to be bad. It has to be bad. It has to be awful. It has to have an external savior. Okay, that savior is going to take the appropriate form. It's not the mechanics that matter, okay? The vaccine thing was great, but if the vaccine had been announced before the election, it was bad. If announced a couple days after the election, after the media said that it's a Biden thing, now it's good. Literally, people saying the same vaccine they would not take with this president, but would take with this president. Same vaccine, same development, same timeline. It's the image makes the reality for them. You know, but the vaccine is supposed to be a savior. And I'm just like, I don't really buy it. I don't think we need, this is personal opinion, and you're free to disagree with me. I personally don't think we need a vaccine. I think we need a lifestyle change. And I think we need it on a broad level. What's the most common fracture in boot camp for the military now? And it's crazy because it's epidemic levels of a fracture. It's a stress fracture of the femur because people are not growing up with strong enough bones to walk. Yeah, I get boot camp is a little harsh. You walk several miles every day with a backpack. Uh-huh. And literally not a problem through all of history. Why is it a problem now? Okay? Serious question. Why is it a problem now? What kind of lifestyle do you have that you develop a bone structure that is not capable of handling a couple of weeks of walking 5 to 20 miles a day? I don't have an answer for how this happened. Like, I know how it happened. I know why it happened. I have suspicions. I don't know, but I can point to a lot of factors. But how do we get there? Like, how does the society get there? I'm speechless. So you've got people who are exposed to the knowledge. Like, I literally send him the scientific papers, say, here is the data. You are the sharp blade of reason, okay? Literally, one of his nicknames, right? The anti-faith guy, the rationality in science. You send him the scientific paper, and he's just like, okay, so general health means that you generally can survive it better. Okay. I'm like, no, that's not what the papers say. They literally say that you won't even catch it as often. Like, you literally won't carry it. Not the disease, the virus itself. You know? People are very attached to an image and a structure around this virus. And there are people who are attached to it not existing. Okay, there are a lot of doomers out there. There are a lot of people on the conservative and far right who look at this as the plague that has been promised. Their final chance to get rid of the sick society and have the new start. Okay? There are a lot of people who want a great reset. Not not percentage lots. Lots like, a couple high schools worth of lots. As individuals, it's a lot. As a country, it's not. But there are plenty of people who think that the thing is actually a hoax, that it's literally a plan. I think that it is being used opportunistically by authoritarians and anti-humans. I think that we have the people who want the planned anti-human, anti-individualist society and the death of the human soul are really using this to further their agenda. That's fine. Other people think that it's a complete hoax made up by these people, and I don't think that's really the case. I honestly think that it's something that's been around, that goes around, that's been through our species in cycles periodically, but we've never really noticed because we haven't done this to ourselves inside. And I'm not filming this outside because it's like getting onto winter and it's like 14 degrees outside and windy and you wouldn't be able to hear me and so on and so forth. So I'll go back outside and bundle up and chop some firewood in a little bit. I don't understand the inability. I don't understand the desire. No, I think I understand the desire. I don't understand the inability when faced with the reality to do what is necessary to help yourself and your society. That's the part that really gets me. I understand the religious impulse, the desire, the faith, the identify a bad thing so you can have it identified, so you can separate it out, identify the savior so that you can have a savior. Everyone wants a messiah. It doesn't matter if it's Biden's vaccine or Trump's vaccine, it's the same vaccine. If one of them is the Antichrist and the other one is your salvation, then whatever. That's just, this is a religious viewpoint. I get that. I understand that part. What I don't understand is when people refuse to drink water. That's literally where we're at. We're at people who are dehydrated and refuse to drink water. Yeah, you want a magical pill, cure, vaccine, treatment, intravenous saline to cure it all, but water. Until you can get all of your magic religious stuff, drink water. And people are like, no, I will not drink water. It hasn't been shown to have any real effects. Is it going to hurt you to go outside and get a tan and take a walk? I don't get it. So, more rambling about coronavirus. Sorry about that. It's kind of on my mind right now because I'm watching people really thrash themselves around over this, You've got people having fights about mask wearing. The least important part of this, people aren't yelling at each other in the bathroom over hand washing, which maybe they should be. That makes more sense. I don't know. I talked about the irrational behaviors and the illogics of the lockdowns, but right now I'm talking about the people. So my friend cannot accept scientific data that indicates significant differences in outcomes and acquisition of a virus, because he has to pass it off as just general health is just general health, and it's not that. Or if it is that, general health is something we don't have generally anymore. They say common sense ain't. Well, general health isn't. I don't know. Stay sideways, have fun. I've got my bitchute renewed. Maybe I'll be able to actually upload something on it. It never expired. I haven't been able to get through tech support to the point where I can upload anything lately, so I'm stuck with the tube, and of course, all 34 of you, or 32 of you, or 35 of you who actually see this, well, it doesn't matter anyway, does it? Please, if you do appreciate any of this ranting, maybe share, see if you can get someone else interested once in a while. It would feel a lot better if I was talking to more than, a dozen people. Stay sideways.